Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. This is Saturday vlog with Shirley, with Spirit of Matter. And we are in Mercury hour. And Mercury is right now in Leo, retrograde, 22 degrees. If you want to know for what this 2 is, I invite you to look at Mama versus Mafia. She's been posting a lot. And I recently found out that this thing that you see a lot of spies do and whistleblowers do, but also leaders of revolutions and stuff like that, and even Churchill. This basically means two gender. So this is Mars, this is Venus. And by the way, in Netherlands, this is this. So a little bit of cultural amusement. And this is the G. If you see my thumb, is the G. Basically, that means two genders. And that was like a eureka moment for me. That's what it means. And we're going to talk about all the lovely things: Nazi, sex, gender, yin-yang, politics, medicine, economy, and whatnot. So Mars is still in 22 degrees Gemini. And so this is, the degree of murder. And there is this thing that I've already talked about, which is appropriate to talk when Mercury is retrograde, and this is how basically for those that are decision makers in secret societies infiltrate our medical balance and our spiritual balance and our energy balance, and try to create divisions, violence, and slavery within entire humanity. If they did not invent this, we know that a lot of the practices are coming from tribes. So then I want to get into the nitty-gritty of the how it is done, why it is done. And so for a little bit of conceptual conceptual paradigm, we have the understanding that the division of societies and the interference with whether it's masculinity, femininity, dependent your gender identity on medical procedures, and encouraging people to feel bad about their bodies or to feel bad about, or not fit or something like that. We know that this is all money, right? Because if your identity requires you to go and see a shrink or go and see a surgeon, then identity is one of the core aspects of psychology of the human existence, and people will do a lot of what they identify with. Okay, when you say an I am, with the power of I am, you want to put good things around this I am. And this is the wisdom of Ra in Aries as well. And so the splitting of identities, which we see happen in satanic ritual views, is as well a part of these paradigms, okay? A part of that need to not have people have a sovereign identity, and to find it difficult to literally exist or to conceptualize for themselves. And those things are done with electrocution, and those things are done with interference in sexual energy. So what is important to understand here is that the minute you disrespect for your sexual energy, for your masculinity and femininity, or yin and yang, or whichever you want to see it, regardless of for your gender, okay? This is already creating medical, spiritual, physical imbalance within you. Okay, just like some people respect the heavens but don't respect the soil. So what happens? They get unbalanced. And this is how basically world wars are created. And this is by design, okay? So continuing on things I have been discussing in 2017, 2018, which is for me, just discovering, okay, for this type of medicine through actually healing from toxic dynamic with a person who was programmed like this. He was intelligence. I noticed that I say not a word of blame or judgment. He grew into that, and I had to recover from that, okay, because that was the nature of the encounter. And then you learn about, holding the dissonance. You learn about respecting for a masculinity and a femininity, and this is how you heal from these things. You learn of what is yin and yang in nature in general, and the balances between them. In this context, notion that the heavens is punishing the land is inappropriate. Okay, it's infiltration. I don't care how ancient it is. I don't care what Caesar said it. As Feynman said, if it doesn't work with experiment, if it doesn't work with real life, doesn't work for you, it's wrong. And I've noticed time and time again that when we accept for the yin and the yang, and when we accept for our sexual energy, we get deeper into the experience, we heal. We find our truth, we communicate our truth, and we set the boundaries. There's something that needs to be on all levels, and this is yes, also for the key to avoid world wars, to avoid expandable children practice, and so on and so forth. The things that happen inside the secret societies is to enslave people. They don't want you to be accepting of all of your parts of your persona. They try to create dissociation splits and to make you think badly of you, okay? So yes, there is reasoning for everything that you do, and this reasoning is usually to protect you, to safeguard you, and in favor of you. So you're working in favor of you, not against you. This is important to know, especially when you're healing from trauma. And what is done there is basically to create for division. There are people who are fools, and this is thanks to Trudy, yes. There are people who are fools, and then there are people who get away with everything, okay? So the fools cannot get away with murder, with rape, with this, with that. But the people who are paid for by this, yes, by those who have the money and the interest to divide society, they say you can get away with murder, you can get away with rape, you can get away with all of these things, which actually causes for the person a series of troubles, okay? Especially for when it comes to connecting, when it comes to intimacy, regardless of the gender. So both in same-sex relations and in same gender relations, and with multiple gender relations, those things are going to play a part, okay? And you can clearly see for when those things are not accepted, you have bad communication even with yourself, you have bad health even with yourself. When these things are accepted, then you have better communication. You can see for clearly what is bothering me from, let's say, connecting with my body. Then immediately the challenge will come up. In astrology, we will see it as the outer planet that's associated with that sometimes. Not always. There has been astrology before outer planets, but it's very easy to computate. And so if it's Pluto, very likely something to do with this type of psychology, power, bloodline, and hidden finances, occult, okay? Neptune, issues of surrender. So yes, Neptune is a big issue, but it's also drugs, addictions. If Pluto is obsession, then the complementary Neptune is addiction. And you know that addiction and obsession go very well together, and now this sextile indeed. Uranus, some sort of revolution is needed. Okay? With Pluto, some sort of evolution is needed. With Neptune, some sort of accepting, surrendering, not trying to be Ubermensch. Oh God. I think I would need to, yes. Very likely I would need to get away because we are having the Saturday singing. And so, and yes, and with Aries is inclusivity. So, what's being done to people is basically one division is the fools. Okay, these people are fools, they don't get it, they don't this, they don't that, and that they cannot get away with anything. These are the people that are judged, that are persecuted, that we have shows on. This is the people that will be brought to justice. When I spoke yesterday about Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate, I said they were expandable to the system, and therefore they were basically exposed and litigated. So it didn't go for human trafficking. Eventually they caught them for pedophilia. But essentially there are indeed the people that are not at all persecuted and can get away with everything. And even amongst these people where they tell you, oh, well, they would litigate this person but not that person, sometimes it's just another way to get away with other things. Not always, yes, but this is another form of division, and this is where they would try to, let's say, oppress one or the other gender. And this oppression is not just idea or justice, it's a very DNA level, okay? The XXY children. The XXY children is what they call hermaphrodite. And this is again from Trudy. Mama versus Mafia is her channel. She was married to a person who was in the Rabobank in Netherlands, and this Rabobank is associated with so many scandals, from Joris Demming in the intelligence, Supreme Court judge, the baby sin case, the children snuff case, all of our politicians, okay, satanic ritual abuse death camps. So yes, Wilders, Reuters, famous that we know, but not only journalists like Mika Kat, Theo, I'm not sure, yes, what, don't want to say wrong name, but you understand that this was the bank where they would finance all these things, and you would need to be basically a part of their death camps. So what they do is on DNA level try to get at the very genetics that comprise yin and yang, okay, feminine, masculine, and intervene in that. So what it would come to be is that at first they made men not be able to say yes, no, and maybe as they would, and they called it toxic masculinity. Now, it's very easy to market, this is David Icke already, very easy to market toxic masculinity to people that have been raped, that have been violated, that have been abused, okay? Because we don't want to hate for men, and we definitely don't want to say that this behavior is men, okay? It's not being manly, so I say, no, this is toxic masculinity. But what these secret societies, they made a toxic masculinity for a man that says no. And they targeted men first. We didn't see it because we're not exposed to this. David Icke saw it in the 90s. And so it became basically toxic, not just to be aggressive, but also to stand for your right, and this creating obedience. So they took for the men, the masculine. Then they took for feminine, and this is where we saw it all across the board. And so began to talk about femininity is toxic. Now listen, when does this happen? As women begin to adopt for the yes, no, maybe, that's required to heal from sexual violence, financial violence, they begin to stand for their rights, in short, okay? So they begin to adopt for these qualities that what's considered masculine from society point of view. It is like, to be assertive is not masculine. Can be a woman, be assertive. Yes, it's young. And it's good, you must adopt young. Otherwise, you're not supporting, you're not defending your yin, and you're not supporting your passions. One of the greatest astrological teachings I got from Ksenia Moore had to do with Mars. So, express for your Mars, for your passion, your aggression, your yes, your boundaries. And also in psychology, okay? For when you heal from toxic relations, they say, a lot of women cannot say no because they fear implications, not just abandonment or people pleasing, but literally violence. And they must learn to get angry. Okay? So women began to get angry, and then we talked about what? Toxic femininity. Now, without your Mars, there's no Venus. Without setting boundaries, there's nothing that comprises you, okay? But also without connection, which is more Venus. Okay, you can see it as Mars and Venus. There's no Mars. If people try to go on Mars and to live on Mars, they would need to support for this Mars with extra Venus. And so you see that there's no actual reasoning for interfering in our energies and for not accepting who we are, but only financial. Only because this creates divisions, this creates dependency on medicine. Yin-yang, when you understand it in yin-yang terms, you understand that there's a whole medicine that's built on that. And the whole way to heal that's built on that. Okay? There are a lot of traditional Chinese medicines, and it's not the entire story, because again, if you believe that the heavens are punishing for the land, you are still in this secret society's coup over humanity. And if you go into these divisions and I'm going to play the counterpart, which is very tempting, okay? Somebody doesn't like me because I'm woman, I'm going to hate him because he's man. And this is happening with tribes, with nationalities, okay? With the minute we had a nation state and people began to do it with nations, it's very simple. And some of those divisions are kind of, natural. If you come at me at the wrong day when I feel feminine, you say, oh, you're a man, I would not feel nice, I would not like it. And this is a part of our natural thing, is to rebel, to set boundaries. No, don't call me that way, or this pronoun doesn't fit. This is okay. It is when those things are extremified, and only to perpetuate constant war. This is why they don't want you to read Mein Kampf, because Hitler talks about this. He just talks about this like a 5-year-old kid would say what his father's ideology in simple words. Okay? It's Mercury Aries. It's like the child speaking. And everybody banned this book because they're still acting according to Mein Kampf exactly. Replace Jews with anything, with men, with women, with LGBTQ that doesn't want to go through surgery. Okay? Replace that with anything, with this nationality, with that nationality, and you get exactly what is practiced in the world today. And it's practiced from the DNA, from the childhood of people. People trying to be picked by the bloodline. Again, Mars is connected to the blood and to our name. And this really comes to undermine the people themselves so that they wouldn't be sovereign. That, of course, affects our economies. Because if our economy, and who funds these things are banks, that they cut dividends for the church, for Vatican and so on. But if who funds these things are banks, and if your own connection to your tribe is associated with I am this bloodline, not that bloodline, and you forget that your tribe was cannibalizing their enemies, was mistreating girls and boys, was raping women way before it got invaded. Then it got invaded by another tribe that did worse, and then the entire tribal society got colonized. And to heal from this, you need to heal those. Because what did we do with those? Those were two spirits. Those were two spirits, and those people, there were two spirits, they were taken. If you were two spirit, you were basically the shaman, the healer, and you were taken, there was only one shaman, and that person would torture you, would rape you, would put you through horrid things, and then they would put you through the experiments of women, the experiment of men, and you were supposed to heal both of your genders and to heal all the gender experience in other people and heal them medically, heal their emotions, heal their relationships, and so on and so forth. And you could do this because you were two. But because the training of these shamans included torture, included rape, included all of these things that expandable children go through in the secret societies until today, then you never really had healing. And you had only one shaman, only one two. When you understand it's not natural for people to have only one two. Even in a tribal society, it's not natural. We have, and it's not this well defined, okay? Our gender experience is way more dynamic. We are a nervous system, and our environment affects for our gender experience. But essentially, it has begun from the tribes and from what we agreed to accept of how medicine was, to medicine colonized. Okay? And so the fact that we put a person through this human suffering, and we basically made a human sacrifice for the sake of our medicine, this is Neptunian themes, okay? The theme of sacrifice is creating for this situation that there's only one shaman, he's trained by only one shaman. And so if the relations between them not good, your entire tribe will suffer. And will affect all your histories, past and future. This is why tribes were so easily colonized, because yes, they fought to the death, and so yes, it's not about, oh, they will lose. No. It's because the volatility of a two-spirit that doesn't get to choose for their training, that doesn't get to choose for the way they process things, that the only one person, if they're not successful, your entire tribe fails, is so centralized that eventually what happened with centralized regimes, they collapse from within and you become very, very vulnerable. So if you identify with the tribe and you want to act like you did before, now another division is to cut you from your history. And this is a part of what identity does, because if you do dissociative identity, you basically mess with the memory of people, moon, and the ability to see clearly, moon and sun. And this is also around eclipses, okay? Eclipses change our point of view, and these are fated changes. Okay, eclipses of 2017, think back to how you viewed the world 2017, what has changed. Think forward to 2024, what is in closure, what is closing in for you, what are you completing. Very likely, if you would look at my videos from 2017, you would see themes that are of completion to this. Exactly same topics. Exactly same topics. But now on a world scale, okay? Even more so than before. So, on a world scale, but also local scale, I can say to you that as Israeli that was running away from Orthodox religion, Yes, to see certain world leaders wearing kippah, it was an experience for me. It's kind of like you go away from the cult to meet basically something that connects you not only to the cult but also to your heritage, basically. And it's not that I have desire to go away from my heritage, it's just that there are certain practices that are no longer fit. And the more you go outside, you see that this is coming even from Inuit tribes. So to say Jews is unfair, although today you would see most of them wearing kippahs because they're forced to. Okay, that's basically the situation. Um, Anything more I have to say about this? Well, you will see for those divisions. And you see how every person has temptation to buy these divisions. Okay, you broke up with an ex, then all men are like this, all women are like this, even if it was gay relationship. Somebody was violent to you and they spoke another language. Again, I see now in Beersheba, where I lived for a decade at least. Yes, a decade. And so I see that right now what we have is they give extra authority to security people, and they can do search on people in the street. Just do search on people on your vehicle, on everything. Okay, so if you're traveling to Israel, beware of Beersheba now. It's not safe. And they built it for years, because for years there was terror coming from Bedouin society, the youngsters. Okay, they neglected, made sure these people are neglected, and then they come to the city because they're bored, and they make all kinds of stunts, and they don't have respect for human beings. I'm not talking about etiquette, I'm just simple respect. um, and that is how people wanted security to stop this. And so what will happen eventually is that the same way that in Europe they took the refugees out, is that Bedouin society has neglected women, neglected girls, as did Sedna stories, okay? Murdering girls who didn't want to marry for so long that would be easy to deport them, okay? And people don't want to see that because they connect with this society on the very basis. Because Orthodox Jews, they do the same. But these secret societies, they were targeting men first, so men are obedient. Then they targeted women, to off women, because women began to heal from sexual trauma. And then they did to women basically for what they did to men. Okay, so they did it to men first, and then they did it to women. Okay, men did not stand against violence against women, against children. Now they're doing this, okay, to the women. And this is where they want to completely wipe off one gender or another. And this is where we see all the holocausts and democides and genocides. All of these things stem from that. So if you're asking what is the antidote to the compulsory creation of hermaphrodite, the antidote is to accept the feminine masculine. Even if you go on other galaxies, you would still, it's okay, being androgynous is not wrong. Okay, our gender experience is fluid and is dynamic. That being said, for us to enjoy our full existence and have identity that is complete, we need to accept our different parts and different genders and yins and yangs appropriately. Okay, in relational communication, is something very simple that has been adopted in recent years, and that was, let's say, to ask yourself, am I in orientation where I need solution? Am I in orientation where I need to share something? Usually in the past only women would ask themselves and communicate that, so they don't get solution where they need empathy or listening. Now both men and women, all genders, are encouraged to sense that and to accept which side of which polarity I am in right now and what are my needs for this polarity. This experience is natural. It doesn't require for you to do anything, any surgeries to your genitalia. Um, it is a part of something that heals you from those divisions and enables communication and enables attraction. You don't lose polarity when you do this. People think you lose polarity. You don't lose sexual polarity at all. You celebrate for yourself in different polarities, and you set in on what's enjoyable to you. That can change as well. So those are the antidotes. The antidotes is yes, for to accept these things. If you say, okay, I don't feel gender experience at all, great, wonderful. Just be true to that. What are your needs? What's your communication style, and so on and so forth. That's literally the antidote. Because if you are embracing for the division, you're playing to the hands of those who practice expandable children, they practice expandable people and expandable leaders. If you lean in to your sexual energy, and if you're asexual for your gender experience, okay, or add gender to who you are, then that leaning in to create for authenticity that allows for communication, allows for you to set the boundaries, and so on and so forth. And it's good to have the power of knowing where do the people that create this division come from and what they believe, however ridiculous the belief is. These are used to try to create super power for to control and enslave humanity. Eventually, what this evolves to, where Pluto is right now, is evolving to where Pluto was in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So this is evolving to nuclear war, but doesn't have to evolve to nuclear war. The question is if we accept for these divisions or if we allow ourselves to be. Okay, and you must understand that politicians or public figures, they are extorted to do these divisions. And I talked about expandable children, and if you want to listen to my Andrew Tate video to learn more about what these people are born into, and how we must resist the temptation to think that off with their heads is something that is going to solve our problems, because that has been going on for a couple millennia. And again, every couple of centuries, people off the heads of the leaders, the kings, the royals, and everybody feels justice is done, but nothing is done. It took another Pluto cycle for France to be somewhat reminding of decentralized democratic regime, and it was lasting a very short while because people don't tend to expandable children. And when they do, it's always like, well, the big ones are the pedophiles. Yes, they grow to be pedophiles, um, uh, but what we need is to dismantle of the entire praxis of expandable children. And what's lying at the heart of it is the creation of what they call hermaphrodite. Now is attempt to wipe off feminine, but it was done to masculine as well. And what the practices are the same practices that are from indigenous societies. That is what we're facing. This is why humanity is facing extinction. This is why humanity is facing extinction, because if we do that, we're basically going extinct. And then people say, well, there will be transhumanism, we will multiply in other ways, or multiply technologically, and multiply this and multiply that. Yes, but the role of polarities, of sexual polarities, you see, every society that has been canceling out for this polarity, what was created was nuclear bombing, because after that you basically rejuvenate and renew sexual polarity. You want to see what happened to Chernobyl. It became a lush forest, still radioactive. Extinct species began to show up, and species that were not procreating with sexual polarity began to have sexual polarity. Okay, so nuclear bombing creates for sexual polarity. This is what it is. Yes, and so all the attempts to try to cancel out the sexual polarity actually creating for more sexual polarity. Okay, one attempt like this is sexual violence. As a person who heals from that, I said it doesn't make sense to me that people, different genders or different sexuality that they're supposed to complete for each other, it doesn't make sense that they will be violent. So I try to see for what is this coming from. And also for I see person that a man can, older than me can feel disempowered by me because of that try to attack me, and I'm like, this is silly. Okay, if it shouldn't be reason we should be afraid of each other. And I try to see why people are afraid of each other. And I'm a child to marriage that was life-threatening upon breaking. Okay, you see clearly the many reasons. One is this views, okay, for if your entire psychological view, and if you're feeling so isolated that you cannot have network of support, or your network of support builds on bashing the other rather than supporting you, and for the economy. Now, economy is based on this web of extortions. This is 8th house in astrology, and so there's no reason for 8th house in astrology to be house of trauma. Okay, it's basically what happens after people get married. So they share their lineages, they share their traditions, how things, you no longer, in holidays you're expected to eat with the family and so on. So it's a merge of families and merge of lineages and so on. But it shouldn't be traumatic. And the only reason it's traumatic is because our economy, okay, life insurances, our debts, all of these things are comprised on economy that is extortion and betrayal based and expandable children based. And then people try to correct their marriage with having a child, or try to correct their marriage with maybe loosening up the type of commitment, okay, monogamy, non-monogamy, or try to correct the marriage with okay, even separating their own, like prenuptial, and so all these things are good, but we must attend to our economy. We must attend to our banking. If Bank of America is owning Bitcoin, then we don't have decentralized currency. If to be a part of banking system and the people who make those decisions, their energy is energy of extortion, of rape, of torture, of electrocution since childhood, then of course it builds up for the energy of our economy. Okay, it's that we have in mind, and what you see with your problems as person or as couple, you would need to tend to that. And this is for my teaching on outer planets, with which problems you need to tend to when outer planets touch on inner planets. Okay, from Pluto, absolutely, politics, you cannot stay oblivious of politics and say, oh, it's just a power relation between us, or we can fix it with kink. Doesn't work because you are a part of a change in society that you need to tend to. Okay, Saturn Pluto, one of the most yes, you can see my Saturn Pluto, you're basically the structures that create grief and limitation, stagnation, versus the structures that create solidity, something that stands the test of time. Okay, Pluto creates taboo and rejuvenation in all of that, so you can rejuvenate for these structures. I had the Corva now, okay, the Pluto Saturn, with person from academia, where indeed for everything was in one place. Okay, this is the academia, is the housing, is the income, is the friends, is the teachings, is the this, is the that, and it was so centralized that needed to be for decentralized, and I didn't have a Neptune on my Saturn. Okay, for decentralized, unfortunately, it creates deep experiences of grief, of wars, but that was also the Aries Uranus square in Pluto that was kind of the world wars say hello. Okay, so the world wars say hello, and tending to the world wars. This is also when I comprised my yin yang theory and its relation to world wars, and what I saw for what I thought was natural experience of humanity, that we can remediate by accepting yes the gender. I see now is by design, when we bring everything to conclusion, and the Ubermensch creation is that it's by design the creation of world wars along the centuries, and it's coming to the DNA, and it's coming to our economy and all of our experiences, and this is the number one priority for us to tend to, especially upon Pluto trine in Sedna. Pluto is about to go Pluto is about to enter Capricorn again with trine in Sedna. Sedna is exactly that Sedna story, okay? When we sacrificed children, we did infanticide, when it was not possible to be free in the tribe. On the one hand, Inuit society, okay, they would have a notion that of monogamy is relaxed, okay? If the husband would go hunting, then it was duty for another man to satisfy sexually the woman. And the vice versa. If a man came from another tribe, so it was duty for a woman to sleep with him as courtesy. So the view upon sexuality was not about sexism, but it was like courtesy and not so much individuality. And we need to balance this for sex to be good. We need to balance, okay, what one like, one the other like, and then the what both like, what both are okay with doing, is basically for what is sexuality. And of course, it's a different type of sensitivity. Inuits were not doing that, and that created for susceptibility to invasion and susceptibility on the food level. Until today, they struggle for the food level because they know when to hunt and how to hunt, but because of this thing, of this part of Sedna's story, that is not just the ocean lives, but it's our relations. And it's not for nothing that Sedna was the first goddess we know of that you pray for when you want a good relationship, because in Sedna what she wanted was to be free inside the connection. And that's the work with Sedna, okay? So the Pluto Sedna is very much allowing and opening a gate of transformation. It was not open for at least another, well, it's not open in Gemini for at least another 12 millennia, because it takes that long for Sedna to surround the Earth. And so this is something that touches on our humanity, and Pluto in Aquarius is the Pluto of humanity. Sedna was not in Gemini at the last time Pluto was on Aquarius, so this makes it for a very unique, very special embark into the golden ages. So yes, not to glorify, yes, but to keep in mind that those are the things we need to tend to embark to the golden ages. This is why everything is exposed right now. And this is a jump in our humanity as humanity, or woman. Okay, if the peopleism, I don't know, because Lom is man, and that's another perpetuation of that division. And this is exactly what we're required to do, is to look at the things that seem like they can't be reconciled, but we have another door opening, and this is that the sextile between Aries and Deneb Algedi, and the location of Aries in Aries in Andromeda constellation, which will accompany us as well when she enters Taurus. So Aries is that Ubermensch. Aries is those Nazis that try to create Ubermensch, but they're now not Nazis, and they're still trying. They're Nazis with Kippa, but they're still trying to create for this Ubermensch or hermaphrodite. Aries in Aries is the ones that were disincluded and then got included by the cult in our generation. But Aries is also to include those that were not included, okay? And with Andromeda constellation, we have tremendous chance to free the kidnapped, to free from torture, to liberate people from torturous situations. And with the sextile to Deneb Algedi, to make equity, wealth redistribution that encompasses both in idea and in resources for these that were not included in societies. Naturally, this is why we have world wars. Okay, naturally, why it's allowed, because for these secret societies, they would not be allowed, and they were indeed persecuted even in previous times of Pluto and Aquarius. They would not be allowed if from the Inuit, if from the tribes, if from the indigenous societies, we were inclusive. Women could be free, men could be free, children would have childhood, okay? Those things are what allows, okay, for the infiltration of those things is what allows for to make this extremified until we tend to it. And that is what is going on in the world. And this is more like a natural explanation of how it is allowed. Because when you think about a god, you understand that there is no excuse for any god to allow children to be tortured, raped, electrocuted, and so on and so forth, as per nature. it corrects for itself, and it corrects for itself through natural processes. And then there's infiltrations of nature that are generally done with such motivations to try to include everybody. And so when people feel disempowered, they try to accumulate excess wealth because they think nobody will take care of me but me. That is okay, for the root of these things basically begins. But we also have in here the antidotes. Okay, for without thinking about inclusivity, we really don't have a way that we can move forward with what we've been experiencing. Because to move forward is to move away from the situation that created the problem. And that situation was back in Inuit society, back in Sedna. So that's something to kind of ponder or to meditate upon. And we can call on energies of Deneb Algedi. We understand that when children murdered, doesn't matter what the nationality, what the gender, what the tribe, what the bloodline, what the circumstances, this is infanticide. When our men sent to war, and when we don't allow for the yin, for the women, for the feminine, for the non-binary, for that which is less defined, for basically what happens is men are begin to get killed by the hundreds. And I've seen this in Bedouin society, where next to where I live, at first it was the children, then it was the women, and then men, 100 men a month would get murdered within the society. Within the society. 2 generations of men died in the 2 world wars before women had what? A bank account, a right to vote, okay? Those very weird, very basic sovereignties, okay, root chakra sovereignties. 2 generations of men dead. Why? For no reason. No reason. There's no reason for that to be. I said it in 2017. That's what will be. I said it in 2017. That's what will be. Will be another world war. Okay? I said it during Me Too. It's affecting for our sciences. It's affecting for our thinking. It's affecting for everything. Because if your science is not allowed to be science, medicine not allowed to be medicine. And I saw practical examples. Talked about the cancer research. Okay? And I'm saying this again right now. The eclipses, the solar eclipses that we had in April were on Nineveh, and the Nineveh story was that Nineveh was sent a prophet that was saying, I'm not from here, and this is enemy place, so who will listen to me? But eventually he was swallowed by a whale and was vomited on the sea. It's very picturesque. And then he had to give for the prophecy, said, okay, I know I'm enemy country, I this, I that, but I was sent here to tell you this, for you must repent. And you must correct your ways. And this is entirely what is true for society. Okay, we must repent, we must correct our ways. If we keep expanding children, it doesn't matter what excuse. If we keep mistreating women, doesn't matter what excuse. If we keep not believing our soldiers to say, I was asked to commit illegal order, and we say they're traitors for speaking up, for saving the security of our countries, the traitors, then it's world war. And if we allow for the cancellation of sexual polarity, we evolve to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And this time is human extinction. You say, okay, it's good for human to be extinct. Okay, but the other way around is that we correct for our ways and we don't go to human extinction. We go to abolishing expandable children practices. There's not just Boko Haram, there's also Brussels. That's also Netherlands. That's also Israel. That's also Palestine. That's also Ukraine. Okay? And that's also Russia. I was just listening to a woman that was sex spy. She learned sex espionage and she was Russian. Her father was also, you know, big in, I don't know, intelligence or army or something like that. He sent her to army academy. He had no idea what the girl is going to go through. And then she went through rape. And she, to save herself, she said, well, I will stick to this person, make him fall in love with me. So I'm raped by one person, not by many people. And her father would think she a whore. So she got connection with the parents. Her father still doesn't know what she's doing. And in the end, when she finally saved herself from this, she was sent to do sex espionage. She is now teaching how to seduce people. I'm not joking, how to seduce people, because that's what to make money. Okay, so she has how to use these tricks for seduction. She said it's difficult for her to be experiencing herself inside her body. This is expandable children in Russia. Okay, she will send young child to be raped in army academy, or basically to be sex espionage, and parents don't know where the child is going. This is Russia. So if we correct for these things and we allow children to have childhood, we put willing consent first, because through willing consent I can say to you, as a person who to wait for to liberate myself, or had to be to lean into the energy and to set a boundary, and then I would get information coming out to me, and information comes out to you because people want to speak, and because people need to speak to heal. Their soul needs to speak to heal. And then the importance is not for to take advantage of this or to sell this, but to do what I'm doing right now with you, which is to expose for these things, and information begins to come and evidence begin to come to me. Okay? Evidence begins to come to me. And there are things that I still don't talk about because I wait for the evidence and for the people to speak up, because I heard it and a person, maybe deceased person, told me, I liked to sleep with girls. Okay? And I didn't know if I was hearing correct, if this person, maybe somebody tries to infiltrate for this channeling. Okay? So, I like to sleep with young girls, like teenagers. So this is basically when you set what you want, what you like, then, and set boundaries for what you don't like, then you get also for the information what you need to tend to. Okay, my psychologist was MK Ultra. It took me time to understand this. Okay, and they of course would put psychologists so that you wouldn't have a lot of Anneke Lucas running away and starting to heal themselves. That's important. But you must accept for what your femininity, for what your masculinity, and allow it to be, and not accept for violence. And for your sexual energy, and allow it to be, not accept for violence. That's the issue. And then yes, information comes to you. And information comes to you, and paths open up of healing and so on. And when experiencing that it's not this way, you must speak. You must speak. To stay in your body, you must speak. You must speak your truth. And set boundaries, not saying it's easy, but now it's window opening for such things. For us to speak up. So yes, have a lovely Saturday.